Mm. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it may be, wherever you are, Miss Fackenthal. Um, I am quite shy, and I apologize for my tardiness on the presentation, but I read chapter 3, and these are my talking points, what I gathered from it. Chapter 3 focuses on clinical assessment and diagnosis. A clinical assessment is a series of steps designed to gather data about a person and their environment to make decisions about their overall mental health status and approaches for treatment and improvement. The assessment begins with referral questions, which determines the goals and the direction of treatment. Assessment takes 3 different perspectives into account: the environment, the patient, and the psychologist's their theoretical perspective, which is their method of approach or their specific field of study, like behavioral psychology versus psychoanalytical psychiatry. So both of those psychiatrists will have different approaches and different questions they probably will ask the patient. Assessments aim to answer the referral questions that initiated the concern or the consult. Screenings are also a method of assessment that can help people begin to identify problems they may have been unaware of by asking a series of directed and related questions. Good screening tools have high sensitivity, meaning it senses a problem exists. Also, specificity, which means it senses that there is no problem, and it has low false positives and false negatives, meaning that nothing really slips through the cracks. Sorry, my talking points. I just pretty much took notes and put them down. But outcome evaluations can be conducted during treatment to determine patient progress. However, conclusionary outcome evaluations should take every perspective, the patient, the psychologist, family members, additional doctors, perspectives into account as progress is made, so in intervals through treatment. That way the changes can be measured accurately and determine the clinical significance, which is the degree of change that's happening as treatment is being applied. 3 important properties used to measure the effectiveness of the assessment tools are standardization, reliability, and validity. And age and cultural conditions can also play an important role in selecting tools for the patient's assessment. Clinical interviews are typically conducted upon initial, like the psychologist and the patient initially meeting, and it's usually unstructured. As treatment goes on, they can become structured. There are also various psychological tests that can be used in patient assessment, including personality tests, neuropsychological tests, which detects cognitive function or impairments in cognitive functions, thinking, learning, intelligence tests, which are frequently used but also frequently misinterpreted, and symptom-specific tests, which are less broad and hone in on known problematic areas in the patient, such as body concerns or anxiety. Behavioral assessment is more immersive than most other assessment tools, as it is actively identifying the link or the correlation between the behavior and the problematic behavior and the symptom, such as it's basically finding the why. Why is the patient doing the thing they're doing? The contextual variable is the why they're doing what they're doing, and the behavior, of course, is what they're doing. Self-monitoring is a tool that is used in behavioral assessment to gather a current state picture and a more real-time look into the patient. Most questionnaires are retrospective, meaning they look back. The patient is asked to reflect upon a time when or how does such and such make you feel, but they're not currently feeling it at the moment. So self-monitoring gives an edge to behavioral assessments because it's harder to deny what's happening while it's happening. So, and it can create more consciousness or awareness on the behavior for the patient's knowledge, so that they can understand their problem more clearly and battle it more effectively, or administer treatment or apply their coping mechanisms when it's that time. This word is tough. But psychophysiological assessments is also another type of assessment. It's like a tongue twister. It measures brain function, structure, and nervous system activity. It focuses on the changes in the nervous system in response to the emotional or psychological stimuli. So anytime someone's experiencing that thing that triggers them, this is mostly what covers that. The most common form of psychophysiological assessment is EEG, which it monitors the electrical signals in the brain as it changes as the stimuli is introduced to the patient, so that we can see what is going on. The only thing that EEG does not cover is the region of the brain that's being used. It just shows the signals that are the electrical signals and synapses that are happening in the brain, not the actual lobe. That's its only shortcoming. A standard classification system that uses common language is important to diagnosing patients in a standardized way. The DSM covers that. It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and it's been in place since 1952. It covers a broad array of disorders, and as we learn more and more about disorders, it's updated and new versions come out. We're on the DSM-5 as of, I believe, 2013. And it's important because it allows each person to speak about the same thing and have a clear understanding of the page that, like, what we're referring to, because we're all speaking in the same language. So that's why standardization of the system of the classification of disorders is important. Sometimes patient symptoms cannot be explained with a singular diagnosis, and that's when comorbidity comes into play. It's when more than one disorder is present. Age is among one of the differentiating factors that the updated DSMs have accounted for, because symptoms reflect differently based on cognitive ability. So an adult, of course, has more cognitive ability than a child, so they will answer questions differently. And based on the older DSMs, it might have left some children undiagnosed that deserved the diagnosis because the answers just weren't fitting the criteria, but the criteria wasn't made to specify cognitive ability. But now it is, so that's good. And also there are culture-bound syndromes, which are disorders specific to certain races and ethnic groups. Also, diagnostic systems they're not all inclusive. It's not a catch-all. It can fail, even though, some people may have the same factors, everything might line up, gender, age, symptoms. The treatments might not be effective for both patients. So that's why they brought in dimensional models for conceptualizing abnormal behaviors that have been presented as an alternative to traditional categorical, like a DSM, the traditional systems. Dimensional models, they are more specific, and they allow criterias to not be so rigid. So in order to help people who may not fit the exact criteria, dimensional models is more helpful. So basically in chapter 3, we covered everything about assessment and diagnoses, and even got into a little bit of the DSM, and we're still using that today. So all of it is still relevant, and that's pretty much what I got from chapter 3. I hope you have a great day. If I did something wrong, please let me know. I will send this to you. Thank you.